Thank you. Thank you all for appearing today. We've heard a lot about patent rights and anti-competitive drug company actions that harm consumers. I share my concerns on that front, but also I want to discuss the concern I have about a Biden administration decision that will also jeopardize our ability to deal with any pandemics in the future. In May, the Biden administration announced its support for a waiver of intellectual property rights at the World Trade Organization. This waiver would mean that American companies that develop life-saving vaccines and treatments to address the pandemic will lose that intellectual property, and the property will be turned over to the rest of the world, including adversaries like China. Now, waiver may be the technical term for what the Biden administration has decided, but a more accurate description would be confiscation. The American companies that spent billions of dollars developing this technology don't exactly have a choice to participate in a waiver of their property rights, of course. We are used to countries like Russia and China and Cuba expropriating the property of not only their own citizens, but Americans as well, but it is unprecedented for an American administration to help our adversaries steal such intellectual property. I won't put aside the question of whether this is morally right or wrong, because it is clearly wrong to steal the property of an American company and its American shareholders. It is also an incredibly dangerous precedent to set. However, I want to focus more directly on the practical implications of the Biden administration's decision to steal the property of American companies. Mr. Levitt, if the Biden administration succeeds in pushing through this expropriation of American companies' property, will this increase the production of vaccines worldwide?
Thank you, Senator Cotton. The short answer is no. Biopharmaceutical companies share the goal of vaccinating as many people as possible, as quickly as possible around the world. But punitive transfers of patents will not help increase production capacity, nor will they accelerate access to COVID-19 vaccines. And in fact, they also risk putting production in the hands of parties who lack the technical and quality know-how to accomplish this. So the concern that apparently lies behind this move, this unfortunate move of transferring patent rights and seizing patent rights, is misdirected. If there are any issues about getting product and vaccine out, it's in the supply chain, not in the IP rights that, as you said, have enabled companies to develop these vaccines in an incredibly short amount of time.
And this supply chain and manufacturing process for the coronavirus vaccines is incredibly complicated, is that correct?
It absolutely is, Senator.
And it depends on very customized equipment as well as highly specialized knowledge. Is that correct?
Vaccine production is among the most complicated manufacturing processes in the world. There are many, many dozens of separate steps, each of which has to be very carefully controlled and under stringent quality requirements. It's absolutely correct.
So it is not, in fact, the patent rights that these companies have that is the bottleneck for vaccine production around the world, but rather the supply chain and the manufacturing process itself.
Absolutely correct in our view. Yes.
Well, if that is the case, who will benefit from this so-called waiver, or what you might better call an expropriation of American companies' property?
Well, in our view, it certainly won't be patients. In fact, if anyone, as you said, it's going to be the foreign economic competitors who really don't play by the rules in the first place, and that's very unfortunate.
And to put names to those competitors, would most of them, or at least many of them, be located in China?
It has been said that that is one of the countries that is in that category. Yes, Senator.
So, Mr. Levitt, these technical terms, like a TRIPS waiver or WTO protections, are not exactly things that roll off the tongues of most Arkansans when I visit with them. But can you explain why it matters to them, why it matters to all Americans that we protect the intellectual property rights of companies, to include the patent rights of these vaccine manufacturers?
Senator, it matters because taking this kind of drastic action to seize intellectual property and violate intellectual property rights is going to endanger future production and innovation by creating confusion and uncertainty among vaccine manufacturers at a time when they are working around the clock to bring needed vaccines to patients. So in short, the damage will be less access to needed medicines and economic harm as well to a vibrant industry that provides high-quality jobs for hundreds of thousands of Americans.
All in return for which we don't get any acceleration in the effective production of coronavirus vaccines. Is that correct?
Precisely.
Thank you.